Okay, so now Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman are going to pontificate on what LeBron James' legacy will be.
Gentlemen, big game for LaBreezy Manana. Check it out on ABC, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. It's King James scores 25 points against the Thunder, who'll become the youngest player to reach 30,000 career points, beating Kobe Bean Bryant by a year. Stephen A. Smith, when we look back on LeBron's career someday, what should he be remembered for most?
Let me say this before Stephen A. answers her question. And this is what I talk about when I talk about narrative and how the NBA likes to advertise its newest stars, and there's nothing wrong with that. But notice that since the proliferation of NBA players coming into the NBA straight from high school or after 1 year of college, the new standard for achievement in the NBA is the youngest to do something. Why is that? Because they know that if they use the youngest metric, that it will glorify their newer stars. If they were to have stats that said who got to 30,000 points in the fewest games, we all know that it's going to be either Wilt or Michael Jordan, but the NBA does not want it to look like the league is not as good now as it was back then. So they're going to change the metric to youngest.
Abilities or championships?
Championships, meaning lack thereof. LeBron James as a talent will probably go down as a top 3 talent of all time. Maybe top 2, definitely top 5. He's one of the greatest players in the history of basketball.
Well, no, if you're talking about talent, top talents to ever come through the NBA, yeah, he's definitely top 5. I mean, if you're talking about talent, pound for pound, inch for inch, he's definitely at least top 5.
That is undeniable. I don't care what the haters try to say. But in the end, you know, he's starting to climb up there. He's got 5 NBA Finals losses. It's likely going to be 6 this year. And the way things are looking, it'll probably end up being 7 or 8. We're starting to talk about him in the same breath as Jerry West. And I hate that.
I don't hate that because what it does is it forces people to view Jerry West's career with a greater level of respect. Because Jerry West did not play in the I'm not happy with this team, so I'm going to run to that team era. He had to play the same team every year, even though he knew that he had the same team every year. So the result would most likely be the same. See, people, this is why I say when you evaluate things, it always has to be done in its proper context. LeBron James being 3-5 is worse than Jerry West being 1-8 because Jerry West could not run to another team. He couldn't formulate trades with the GM like LeBron James can. Jerry West was a player. He had to stay in his position. LeBron is an all-time great, but this is why I put him in the Wilt Chamberlain class. He's the Wilt Chamberlain of this generation. A transcendent physical force who came up short in clutch moments. That's how I view him. Still a transcendent athlete, but on the level of Michael Jordan or Magic Johnson or Larry Bird or Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, no. Now, if he wins one more championship, I'll put him above Bird. But as of right now, number 6 on my list.
Because I look at a guy like Jerry West, who's a basketball savant and was a phenomenal basketball player. The silhouette, even though I'm one who believes that Michael Jordan should be the silhouette.
No, he shouldn't. Bill Russell should be the silhouette. Michael Jordan already has his own emblem. He doesn't need to be the silhouette of the NBA. The silhouette of the NBA should be Bill Russell. He won the most championships. He's the one who broke through. And, you know, in the era where blacks were first starting to take a hold in the NBA, he should be the silhouette, not Michael Jordan.
Now, but that's no knock on Jerry West whatsoever, because even he agrees with that at this particular moment in time. But 1-8 in an NBA Finals, even with that, here's the difference. You know why we can look at Jerry West? You know, 6'2", 6'3" guard, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, he was the Steph Curry of his day.
He kept running into Bill Russell and the Boston Celtics. That is not the case with LeBron. We didn't expect you to beat San Antonio the first time, but we damn sure expected you to beat the Dallas Mavericks. Y'all were the favorite. You lost that year. When you won the first championship against San Antonio, Ray Allen came and saved the day, even though LeBron showed up in Game 7. The following year, they got obliterated by more than 70 points, or about 70 points, over a 5-game series in which they got blown out of there.
And LeBron did not play very well in that series. He played well in the first 2 games. I believe game one he had that cramp issue, which normally happens to people when they're taking PEDs. But it is what it is. But those games in Miami, he did not play well. And then, of course, they came back to San Antonio and got blitzkrieged.
Okay, even though you lost to the Golden State Warriors when you didn't have Kyrie and Kevin Love, you lost to them last year because Kevin Durant pulled one of your moves in the eyes of your critics. And on top of it all, those same critics that get on him about trying to be passive aggressive or calling him a prima donna, those same critics point to the fact that any kind of balance of power that has shifted, those guys learned that from LeBron James.
Yes, this is a new NBA. Much like prior to World War I, the planetary politics were localized. You had your own government and you pretty much stayed to yourself. After World War I, when they formed the League of Nations, that was the first attempt to create a global government. That's pretty much what LeBron James did when he, changed the, the methodology through which a player would, or could conceive his options. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing what he did in changing a player's comprehension or understanding of his own power. But very similarly, that's what happened in World War I, when prior to that, leaders were pretty much viewed as local representatives or local authorities. And then after World War I, they came together to form the League of Nations. Now we know that was in the under the inspiration of socialism, to globalize the world, bring everybody under the thumb of the international bankers. But very, very similar concept.
So they're not giving him any sympathy in that regard. So he'll walk away with all the money in the world. He'll walk away being recognized as one of the greatest ever, top 5 easy, probably top 2 or 3. But in the end, they're going to count those championship losses against LeBron if he keeps losing. If he wins a couple of more, that would be different. But if we saw the last of LeBron James as a champion and he keeps losing to Golden State, they're going to be like, king of what? That's how they're going to come at him.
He should be remembered, and I believe he will be when all is said and done, as the second greatest player who ever lived. Now, the championships are significant as it relates to Michael Jordan. Stephen A., you and I, as you would say, religiously bring up on this show.
Yeah, you religiously bring it up because you view Michael Jordan as a deity. And all he was a great basketball player. Championships just don't matter in regards to Jordan. Championships matter in general. It's about how many championships did you lead your team to. That is why I say you can argue that Bill Russell or Kareem are greater than Jordan. I would have no problem with somebody who stated that they feel like Bill Russell's the greatest player ever. You certainly have, a background or enough ammunition to promote that feeling. Bill Russell was the greatest high school basketball player. He was the greatest college basketball player. He won the national championship in college. He won in the Olympics. And then he came to the Celtics and won 11 championships. You can easily make the case that he's the greatest or the most impactful basketball player ever. Of course, Kareem won 6 championships in the pros. He won titles at UCLA. He was the greatest high school basketball player, arguably of all time, in Palm Memorial. You can argue him. Michael Jordan, I take over him because he totally changed the NBA paradigm. This is the first non-big man to lead his team to multiple championships while totally altering how people conceive the game to be for a wing to lead the league in scoring, dominate the basketball, and still be a champion. Oscar Robertson couldn't do it. Jerry West couldn't do it. They had to join up with dominant big men to have an opportunity to win championships. Jordan was the first guy to lead his team in scoring as a wing and also dominate in a big man era. That to me is what puts him over everybody else. It's not just about championships. You also have to qualify the championships. But championships is a major, major parameter. How many championships you led your team to. That's a major parameter.
Up on this show, Jordan was 6-0, never going to a 7th game in the finals. It's one of the reasons, but not the only reason, that he is obviously the greatest player who ever lived. But LeBron James will go down after Jordan as the greatest. He will be the second greatest ever. You know, once upon a time in the NBA...
This guy's saying it as if he's the one in charge of verifying the list, the official list of NBA greatest players.
The thought was it could only ever be a big, a center, a back-to-the-basket, rim-protecting, paint-scoring center type who could be the greatest, right? Wilt or Bill Russell or Kareem or someone like that. Jordan is the one who changed all that. Oh, look at that. A guard could be the greatest who ever did it.
Agreed. Good point.
And LeBron is a guy, and since Jordan, the perception has changed. Hey, maybe it's the guy with the ball in his hand who controls the destiny of the game more than any other, who can get his own shot, who can make his teammates better. And that is LeBron. Look, LeBron does have 5 finals losses. Stephen A., Magic had 4. And it's not like LeBron has...
Yes, Magic had 4, but he had more wins than he had losses, Max Kellerman. Please stop.
LeBron has only 1 championship. It's not like he's championship lists or only 1 or even 2. He has 3 championships.
Yes, but Jerry West's 1 and 8 is even more impressive than LeBron's 3 and 5 because Jerry West could not run to another team. He actually had to stick it out with the team that he was on. Once again, I have no problem with LeBron leaving to put himself in a more advantageous position. That's what you're supposed to do. But when we start having these discussions about all-time greats, that is going to factor in and it is going to be a detriment.
Larry Bird had 3 championships, and maybe he's not done. Furthermore, Magic never had to, like every time Magic played in the finals, he had a crew with him. He had a fully loaded crew with him. Well,
agreed, and that's certainly a valid point. But let's also understand that Magic Johnson's first championship in 1980 and his last championship in 1988, the rosters were completely different other than Kareem and Michael Cooper.
Well, there were injuries. There are always injuries. Worthy gets hurt. This one gets hurt. But he had either Kareem or Worthy or both with other all-star caliber players. And Magic is, before Jordan was maybe the greatest non-center who ever lived. The standard has changed with Jordan, sure. But those teams never, even Kobe, never had to run into a team like Golden State. So I think people will recognize that Golden State got Kevin Durant, became unfair to the rest of the league.
Oh, give me a break. Look, Golden State was a team who drafted well. So I have a hard time associating this super juggernaut with Golden State in regards to how the media, who are trying to protect LeBron, have created this aura around Golden State as if they're this Frankenstein monster. Nobody saw this coming with Golden State. I mean, there's still people who come in my comments who talk about how Klay Thompson is not a Hall of Famer and Draymond Green probably won't be a Hall of Famer and all this other stuff. So don't tell me that there is still some dispute over how good Golden State is individually and then tell me how they're this monstrous team. What they do is they coalesce well. They come together well. And when you add a Kevin Durant, that's what makes them a super great all-time team in regards to talent. Because the 2016 Golden State team is probably the greatest team ever in regards to synergy. Because a lot of their players, let's be honest, are borderline cast-offs. Even their higher draft picks like a Steph Curry or a Klay Thompson, even though they were drafted in the first round, there was still some dispute over what they would become in the NBA. Nobody thought that Steph Curry would become this all-time great player in the NBA. He had a very, very high bust factor because of his physique, and his game was viewed as being a jump shot-oriented game. Now, no one knew that he would usher in the era of the jump shot. So that's what makes him a transcendent player. But, at the end of the day, LeBron, you can't make the case that LeBron has to be graded in the context of going against one of the all-time great teams in Golden State and then come and tell me that, well, he beat a 73-19. Well, he beat Golden State. So you can't have it both ways. Either you can beat them or you can't.
LeBron's got 3 chips. He's going down in history right after Michael Jordan.
Max Kellerman, Magic Johnson, for the vast majority of his career, ran into Boston or ran into the bad boy Detroit Pistons.
Or the Sixers.
That's number 1. Number 2, When you look at LeBron James, take out the 2007 team that faced the San Antonio Spurs, one would argue he had a crew. Now, that doesn't mean the opposition didn't have a crew, but LeBron had a crew. He had a crew that was capable of winning the championship at least 6, if not 7, out of the 8 years he's been in the finals.
Absolutely. 7 out of the 8 years, LeBron James had a team behind him that approximated the team that he faced in the finals, and he was unable to be the deciding factor in 5 of those championship runs. Okay? Bottom line.
That is a fact. It doesn't matter what anybody says. He had a crew. I did not say the opposition wasn't a crew. He had a crew good enough for you to sit back and say, if you're the best player in the world, can you not find a way? I'll look at this. Let's analyze and break this down. Yes, it is true. We sit up there and we look at the greatness of a Scottie Pippen, which we have to pay homage to. There's no doubt about that. But collectively, as a team, Michael Jordan had something to go up against when he went up against not the first championship with LA, the second championship against Portland, yes, the third championship against Phoenix, yes, a couple of championships against Utah, yes, the championship finals against Seattle.
That Seattle Supersonics team, if they were around today, they would be a championship level team. And their team was actually built to play in today's era. They didn't have a dominant big man. They took a lot of threes. They were very athletic. Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, Detlef Schrempf, Sam Perkins, Hersey Hawkins on that team, Deadeye shooters. They certainly would be dominant today, that Seattle Supersonics team. They won 64 games that year that the Bulls played them in the finals.
With Peyton and Sean Kemp before he became Sean Klump. Yes, all of that happened. These were teams that were bona fide championship caliber teams. You know what the difference was? They ran into Michael Jordan. So somewhere along the way. So hold on. All I'm trying to say is somewhere along the way. Think about where I'm going for this. I'm not disputing the teams he went against. I'm saying to you, Max, in a question form, do you not ever sit back and just say, I understand all of this stuff about the team, but if I got the best player in the world, shouldn't he be enough to overcome some of those obstacles, especially since he had at least a mini crew with him?
Absolutely.
Let's get into this. The answer is no to that. If Michael Jordan is the standard, LeBron James fails. Jordan's better than LeBron. The advanced analytics like Jordan better than LeBron, both at his peak and for his career averages. Jordan's more of a killer. Jordan's a greater player. LeBron's not going to catch Jordan. Jordan's the greatest. Let's leave Jordan out of that because he changed the standard.
Agreed.
LeBron James has one team he went up against that he should have beaten in the finals, and he didn't. That's the Dallas Mavericks. I do hold it against him, or at least I did until he redeemed himself, right?
No. When we're talking about a career evaluation, you can't not hold something against a player who failed on the level that LeBron James failed against Dallas Mavericks. That is the biggest flop for a superstar in championship history for any sport. Period. When you talk about a superstar on the level of LeBron James, his performance against the Dallas Mavericks in 2011 was the biggest flop, the biggest choke over a series of any superstar in sports history. Period.
Right? No doubt. The first Cavs championship, it's just an amazing accomplishment. Appearance. It's just an amazing accomplishment that he dragged that team to the finals. That's amazing. Of course he had no chance to win. I don't care how great he was. That team had no business in the finals, let alone winning it. The championship game series last year against Golden State, no, the best player in the world was not enough, even with a crew, to overcome a superior crew. They were about evenly matched before the addition of KD. That's why you lamented the addition of KD. It made it unfair. So that's another one they had no shot in. That's 2 just take off the board. How many finals losses do you want to talk about? Because that's 2 right there, and the one to the Mavericks I actually hold against him.
This is what a lot of the LeBron James stupor fans in the mainstream liberal sports media like to do. They like to go through all of his losses and make a bunch of excuses. Now, we can go through the losses of every great player in NBA history, and we could do the same thing. I could say, well, the reason why Magic lost in 1989 to the Pistons was because he had a torn hamstring, and then Byron Scott went down with a torn hamstring. And then in 91, Magic lost to Michael because Magic was quote unquote old, and James Worthy went down with an injury, and Byron Scott went down with an injury. And the reason why Larry Bird lost to Magic in 87 was because Kevin McHale had a broken foot. You see what we can do when we go through every player's lexicon and we want to scrutinize it and make excuses for their legacy. It doesn't work like that. At the end of the day, you are what your record says you are. Period. And I agree. LeBron James got to the finals in 07. They really didn't have a chance against San Antonio because San Antonio was levels above LeBron in regards to the understanding of the game of basketball. Greg Popovich knew that LeBron James was playing the LeBron James system. He wasn't playing role basketball. He was playing the LeBron James system. And he'd gotten past Detroit because Detroit was old. They were older. They were at their end. And they had a new coach in Flip Saunders who did not really understand how to defend LeBron. That's what happened. And when you look at LeBron's other finals performances, we all know Ray Allen saved his butt in 2013. He got blown off the court in 2014. 2015, people say, well, Kyrie and Kevin Love went down. Well, that's the same thing that I stated about Magic Johnson in 91 when James Worthy and Byron Scott went down. Nobody goes back and says, oh, well, Magic really is not 5-4. He's really 5-2. It is what it is. You are what your record is. In 98, when the Bulls played the Jazz in the finals, Scottie Pippen had to get a shot in his back in Game 6 because he had a spinal issue. Jordan still made it happen.
Now, let's talk about San Antonio.
But see, that's the whole point.
You
have to give me a chance to get at your point about LeBron because you keep saying he's such the best in the world. But I was the one arguing Kevin Durant was close. You were saying he was so great. I'm saying if you're saying he's so great, he should have been enough. That's my argument.
Absolutely. If LeBron is truly levels above Kevin Durant and Kevin Durant's not even in his stratosphere, then it should not make a difference that Golden State picked up Kevin Durant. Because after 2016, everybody was talking about how LeBron James is the greatest player ever. He beat the greatest team ever, blah, 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 blah.
If you're saying he's that great.
Golden State was already a match for Cleveland, even with LeBron, before they added KD, who's a top 3 player. I don't care what team you do. It's just at a certain point, it's too many monsters, even for the greatest player in the game. I want to say one.
Well, why is Golden State a match for Cleveland if there's nobody on Golden State who can match LeBron? That's what Stephen A is trying to ask you, Max Kellerman. Now, Stephen A needs somebody in his ear to help him out. Because as Stephen A is pointing out so very well, if Kevin Durant is not on LeBron's level, as Max Kellerman has claimed, not even near his level, that's what he has stated. And if Max Kellerman wants to counter that with, well, he got added to Golden State, well, then how can you say that Golden State was already on Cleveland's level if they didn't even have Kevin Durant? So who was it on Golden State who was on the level of LeBron James, who you're trying to act like was there by himself when he had Kyrie Irving? So basically you're saying that LeBron James and Kyrie Irving are not even on the level of the original Golden State team. Or they're close or similar. So basically, what you're saying is that Steph Curry is commensurate to LeBron James.
Say one more thing. Yes,
go ahead,
lost a series to San Antonio.
No, he's hearing your point. He's just being disingenuous.
When he was loaded, and San Antonio was something less than the best version of Golden State, right? That is true. But Magic Johnson lost to Larry Bird, and Larry Bird lost to Magic Johnson when they had loaded teams, but the other team was also loaded. Again, it comes down to if Jordan is the standard, LeBron can't pass that test. But the standard of anyone else, LeBron passes with flying colors.
Well, you could say that, but I would tell you Kobe won 5 of the 7 finals he was in. Magic won 5 of the 9 titles he was in.
Well, the problem with that is that Kobe was only the lead guy on 2 of those championship teams, Steve. And look, I know the Kobe people are going to jump in my comments. I don't give a shit. As I stated before, the factor is how many championships have you led your team to? Okay? So, once again, that is why I would put a Bill Russell in that argument of greatest ever.
And LeBron James has a losing record in the NBA Finals.
Bill
It doesn't
Russell,
take away
Kareem.
from his individual greatness. Okay, it doesn't take away from his individual greatness. But the reality is that if he is the greatest in the world, and I got Kyrie and Kevin Love, or I had Chris Bosh, you got to remember when they lost the second Finals to the Spurs, they had relatively the same team that they had when they beat the Spurs a year earlier.
That's true, but that second Miami team who played the Spurs in a rematch, something was going on with Dwayne Wade. That man looked like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. His face was all swelled up. Either he had an allergic reaction to some type of medication that he was taking, or maybe he was dealing with some type of illegal drug. Allegedly, who knows? But something was going on with him.
Earlier. So how do you go from winning in 7 to getting obliterated in 5 the very next year? These are
easy. He didn't have Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade really is the one who saved his ass in 2013 as well. If you guys remember, Miami was down 2-1 against San Antonio in 2013. And Greg Popovich was single covering LeBron James and instructed Kawhi Leonard to give LeBron about 5 feet of space. So it was Dwayne Wade who really saved LeBron in that 2013 Finals with that Game 4 performance. Really brought the Miami Heat out of the flames. And then, of course, we know what Ray Allen did in Game 6.
These are all things that you can ask about LeBron James to sit up there and say, excuse me, you lost my... And by the way, he's on the verge. That's not the point, Max. I'm talking about LeBron. I'm talking about LeBron and his greatness. That's what I'm saying. Well, all right then. Well, excuse me. Jordan overcame a lot. Jordan.
Well, wait a minute. Here's the issue with that. Popovich's adjustment to LeBron was to give him 5 feet of space. As I've already stated, Greg Popovich knows LeBron James very well. He knows what LeBron likes to do, and he knows that every team that LeBron is on is going to play the same style. They're going to play the LeBron system. LeBron's going to dribble the ball at the top of the key. He's going to survey the floor. He's going to wipe his jersey with his left hand. He's going to throw a pass. And he's a very good passer, but he also turns the ball over a lot. And up until about 3 years ago, LeBron had very little confidence in his jump shot. So that is really how you played LeBron. You just played off of him and put the pressure on him.
Jordan overcame a lot. And again, you're saying Jordan's the standard, so we can omit that.
We could do this all day. LeBron,
of course we're out of time.
Small forward.
Of course we're out of time.
Well, Steve is frustrated right now because of Max Kellerman being the LeBron James super fan that he is. I don't know why he allows himself to get frustrated by it. Whenever you're dealing with many of the members of the liberal sports media, they're going to change the narrative. They're going to change the goalpost so that they can keep their LeBron James infatuation going. And LeBron is a great player. But if you're going to evaluate him, you have to create consistent barometers so that it seems like an actual realistic conversation.
Small forward.
See, there he goes again. The normal LeBron James superfan statement. He beat a 73-win team. Well, if he beat a 73-win team, then why are you saying that Golden State was on his level even prior to Kevin Durant getting there if LeBron James is levels above every other player in the NBA? It doesn't make sense. That is Stephen A's point. But anyway, peace.